Imagine being sealed inside a steel cylinder, no wider than a city bus, 300 feet beneath the surface of the Barents Sea. You cannot speak above a whisper. You cannot run your ventilation systems at full power. You cannot, under any circumstances, make a sound. Because 50 meters above you, a Soviet destroyer is listening. This is not a Hollywood film. This happened dozens of times in waters so dangerous, so politically charged, that a single mistake, a dropped wrench, a misfired torpedo, could have ended civilization as we know it. These are the secret submarine missions of the Cold War, and until now, most of them were never supposed to be told. To understand why American and Soviet submarines spent decades hunting each other beneath the world's oceans, you first need to understand the world they were born into. The year is 1947. World War II has been over for less than 2 years, and already the two superpowers who defeated Hitler are staring at each other across an iron curtain, each holding weapons capable of ending human history. The United States has the bomb, but the Soviets are racing to catch up. And both sides understand something that would define the next 4 decades of global strategy. The nation that controls the seas controls the war. Submarines in 1947 were still largely World War II technology, diesel-powered, limited range, vulnerable. They had to surface regularly to recharge batteries and breathe air. But the next generation, nuclear-powered submarines, would change everything. In 1954, the USS Nautilus, the world's first nuclear-powered submarine, slipped into the Thames River at Groton, Connecticut. Her first message to the Chief of Naval Operations became one of the most famous signals in naval history. Underway on nuclear power. 4 words, but their meaning shook the world. A nuclear submarine could stay submerged for months. It didn't need to surface, it didn't need to refuel, and it could carry nuclear missiles capable of hitting Moscow from beneath the Arctic Ocean. The Cold War had just gone underwater. The Soviets understood the threat immediately. Within years, they had their own nuclear submarines, the November-class attack boats, raw, aggressive, and dangerously loud by Western standards. But loud didn't mean harmless. A single Soviet submarine carrying ballistic missiles could arrest New York, Washington, and Chicago within 12 minutes of a launch order. The chess game had begun, and the board was the entire ocean floor. The primary mission of American attack submarines during the Cold War was deceptively simple to describe and nearly impossible to execute. Find the Soviet submarine. Follow it. Don't get caught. This was called trailing, and it required a level of seamanship, nerve, and acoustic skill that bordered on supernatural. American sonar operators, called sonarmen, could identify individual Soviet submarines by their unique acoustic signatures, the way the propeller blades were machined, the specific vibration frequency of their reactor cooling pumps. Every submarine had a voice, and the best sonarmen could recognize a specific Soviet boat the way a musician recognizes a voice in a crowded room. But trailing a Soviet submarine was not just dangerous, it was existentially terrifying. Because at any moment, the Soviet commander could do something called a crazy Ivan, a sudden, violent turn, reversing course to see if anyone was following. At that moment, if your submarine was too close, and close when within a few hundred meters in the acoustic shadow, you had seconds to react. Seconds to avoid a collision. Seconds to decide whether to break off and be detected, or hold your breath and pray. USS Pentagon nearly collided with a Soviet submarine in 1974 in waters near Guam. USS Baton Rouge had a close encounter under the Arctic ice in 1992. These weren't movie moments. These were real men, gripping steel handles in the dark, wondering if they were about to die, and wondering, even if they survived, whether anyone would ever know what happened. Because there was a code aboard these submarines. What happened beneath the ocean stayed beneath the ocean. But trailing Soviet submarines was only one part of the Cold War undersea war. The other part was intelligence gathering, and no mission in the entire history of Cold War espionage was more audacious or more catastrophically betrayed than Operation Ivy Bells.
the Sea of Okhotsk, a gray, freezing body of water wedged between Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula and the Japanese home islands. To most people, it's barely a footnote on a map. To the National Security Agency in 1971, it was the most important body of water on Earth. Because somewhere on the bottom of that sea, running between two major Soviet naval facilities, was an underwater communications cable. And through that cable flowed the most sensitive military communications of the Soviet Pacific Fleet. The NSA had a problem. They needed to tap that cable. The cable lay in Soviet territorial waters. Any surface vessel caught there would trigger an international incident. Any aircraft would be shot down. The only platform that could reach that cable, undetected, in the dark, in waters the Soviets believed were absolutely secure, was a submarine. Enter the USS Halibut. She didn't look like much. A converted guided missile submarine, now classified as a special projects boat. Her modifications were so secret that even most of her own crew didn't know what she was really equipped to do. Halibut had been fitted with a deep submergence vehicle, a small, unmanned device that could descend to the ocean floor, navigate along a cable, and attach a recording device that would capture everything flowing through Soviet communications. The device, called a pod, was roughly the size of a large car. It ran on internal battery power. It would sit on the bottom of the Sea of Okhotsk, recording Soviet military communications for weeks at a time. In the autumn of 1971, Halibut slipped out of her home port, her actual mission known to fewer than a dozen people in the United States government. She crossed the Pacific, she entered the Sea of Okhotsk, deep in waters the Soviets considered their private lake, and she found the cable. What followed was one of the most technically complex and nerve-wracking operations in U.S. naval history. Divers, saturation divers who could survive the crushing pressure of the deep, were deployed from Halibut's hull. Working in near-freezing water, in total darkness, guided by acoustic signals, they located the cable and attached the recording pod. It worked. For nearly a decade, from 1971 to 1980, American submarines made regular runs into the Sea of Okhotsk, retrieving the recorded tapes and replacing the pod's batteries. The intelligence gathered was by all accounts extraordinary. Real-time Soviet military communications, training exercises, tactical procedures, the inner workings of the Soviet Pacific Fleet, laid bare on magnetic tape, carried back to NSA analysts in Fort Meade, Maryland. The Soviets had no idea. And then, in 1980, it all collapsed. Not because the Soviets found the pod, not because of any failure of American seamanship or technology, because of a single man sitting in a Washington, D.C. coffee shop. Ronald Pelton was a communications specialist for the NSA. He knew about IV bells. He knew the routes, he knew the pods. And in 1980, facing personal bankruptcy and desperate for money, he walked into the Soviet embassy and sold everything he knew for $200,000. The Soviets quietly dispatched a salvage vessel to the Sea of Okhotsk. They found the pod. They photographed it, examined it, and eventually put it on display in a Moscow museum, where it sits to this day. The greatest intelligence tap in Cold War history ended by one man's desperation. Pelton was eventually caught in 1985 after a Soviet defector tipped off the CIA. He was convicted of espionage and sentenced to 3 concurrent life terms. But the damage was done. The Sea of Okhotsk was silent again. A Soviet Gulf II-class submarine, designated K-129, departed her base from a Kamchatka Peninsula for a routine patrol in the Pacific. She never returned. The Soviets searched frantically. Their surface ships crisscrossed the Pacific for weeks. They found nothing. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that the Americans had already found her. SOSUS, the Sound Surveillance System, a secret network of hydrophones, underwater microphones, bolted to the ocean floor across the Atlantic and Pacific. A system so sensitive it could detect a submarine sneezing. SOSUS had heard K-129 die. An explosion, then the sound of a hull imploding under pressure, then silence. Using those acoustic signatures, the U.S. Navy triangulated the location within a reasonable search area. They sent in the USS Halibut, the same Halibut of Ivy Bell's fame, with her deep-sea cameras. And in the darkness of the Central Pacific, 16,500 feet beneath the surface, they photographed the wreck of K-129. She lay broken on the ocean floor, but intact enough, potentially, to yield extraordinary intelligence. Nuclear warheads, cryptographic equipment, code books, missile targeting data. The CIA wanted her, and they were going to do something that, even by Cold War standards, was almost unbelievably audacious. They were going to steal her. Project Azorian. The CIA, working with Howard Hughes, the eccentric billionaire whose involvement provided perfect cover, built a ship, the Hughes Glomar Explorer. Publicly, she was a deep-sea manganese nodule mining vessel, a commercial operation. In reality, she was a purpose-built submarine salvage platform, equipped with a massive claw mechanism hidden inside her hull, capable of descending 16,000 feet to the ocean floor and gripping the Soviet submarine. In the summer of 1974, while Watergate consumed Washington and the world's attention was elsewhere, the Hughes Glomar explorers sailed to the recovery site. Soviet ships circled her, Soviet surveillance aircraft overflew her. The crew smiled, waved, and kept mining their manganese nodules. Below the waterline, in total secrecy, the claw descended. 16,500 feet, more than 3 miles. It found K-129. It gripped her, and it began to lift. And then the claw broke. A structural failure at approximately 9,000 feet of depth. Part of the submarine, the exact portion many analysts believe is still classified, fell back to the ocean floor. What was recovered included 3 nuclear torpedoes, the bodies of